what's going on, everybody? You're listening to the SANE Show, the show about nothing and everything. I'm your host, Cliff, and today I have another special guest joining us. I have singer-songwriter, instrumentalist, and film composer, also the owner of Alton James Media, Alton James. How you doing, Alton?
I'm well. How about yourself?
I'm doing really well. Thank you for taking time out of your schedule to come on the SANE Show today. I'm super excited to have you on, and I'm super excited to have the conversation that we're going to have today.
Likewise, man.
Awesome. Really quick, before I introduce the topics, I want to take a shout out to all the listeners in all 60 plus countries. Thank you, guys. I love you guys. Thank you for continuing to like, share, and subscribe and spread the word about SANE Show. And if you're listening and you don't already follow us, be sure to check us out on Instagram and Twitter at SANE_show. That's SANE, SANE_show on Instagram and Twitter. And you can find us on Facebook at SANE Show. Again, on Facebook, that's SANE Show. So today, we're going to have a conversation about the back door to success. A really interesting conversation. It's something that really didn't spark my mind until we had our first conversation when we met via Clubhouse. And then we're going to have a conversation about capturing the essence. Again, you being a film composer, I thought this was a really unique topic. And, me being a big fan of cinema and really good movies, I thought this would be a great conversation to have with someone like yourself. And then following those two topics, we're going to have an interview with you, Alton, so that we can learn more about you and all the things that you do and all the fun and exciting things that go along with that. All right?
Sounds good.
All right. So let's go ahead and hop right into it with our first topic, the back door to success. First, I want to say there's many paths to success. Let's just start there. And also want to say that because you take the back door doesn't mean that it's any easier. So I don't want anybody to get the wrong idea after listening to this. And I believe it helps, getting to the right people early. And I think that it shows, in my opinion, great networking skills to be able to do those kinds of things as well. So, and not saying that all people who don't do it this way aren't good at whatever it is they're doing. I mean, everybody's different, right? And everybody has skills in different areas. And, some people are better, like just speaking of entertainment, some people are better like with us, Instagram comedians, right? Putting the skits out there, and same with the musicians, right? Putting the music out there and drawing the crowd early and doing what they do and get all the attention and, getting the attention of those who can help them get to whatever their end goal is. So, I want to open it up to you. Just got to get your thoughts on it again, because the conversation that we had, very insightful and very enlightening and did a lot for me, especially as of late in some of the things that I've done. So if you go ahead, you got it.
To me, so I'll start with my philosophy with anything that I do is just two things, which is do a great job and treat people the right way. And the thing that's crazy about that is when it comes to success and even thinking about this back door, as you're calling it, if you're able to bring value to people, they have something that they have of value to you, then you can leverage those two things. So for instance, like we had a discussion via somebody that connected us, right? And you got something out of our conversation. I'm getting something out of being able to, talk to you on your platform. And I think when people address any interactions they have with people as not trying to use someone, but trying to say like, okay, what can I do to bring value to them, and vice versa? Like, what can we get out of this together? And I think when people approach things as how can we better each other, then the whole environment, the whole situation changes. And, obviously and unfortunately, we see too much entertainment and people that are in high positions. They tend to want to say, what can I just get out of this person? But it's not this reciprocal relationship of them giving something back to someone else. And so when we have that approach, that changes everything. And I'll let you steer the conversation if you want to get kind of more specific about that.
Yeah, it's so funny you bring that up, especially you talk about it being mutual. I mean, was literally the conversation that I was having with a friend of mine who was recently on the show, and he recently served as a executive at a major network. And it was just crazy, again, how he expressed interest in wanting to help me get to my end game. And obviously, the exchange has to be mutual because, for one, me, how I operate, if anybody wants to help me, I want to help them.
Right.
Right? How can we both win? How can we both benefit? Because, even if you're not looking for anything from me, I'm going to feel indebted to you for whatever reason, and to want to do my part to help you with whatever it is you're doing. So, I certainly agree. And just want to say, for that reason, that's why I brought all my mentors into the fold.
Exactly.
Because they've done so much for me. It's like, okay, this is me wanting to give back to you and wanting you to be a part of my success, even though you may not have asked for it. So, yeah, I certainly agree with you on that. And I just I'm so glad when we talked, that we had this conversation. Especially, again, like, just listening to all the cool things that you have going on. I think about how, like, your path is very similar to mine, and I just still remember to this day how I stopped you and I said, "Well, let me tell you my situation. What do I need to do?" He said, "Cliff, you sound like you're in a very similar position as I am, and this is what you need to do." And I've been doing exactly that. And when I tell you it's paid off, it's paid off. So, again, thank you for that. But yeah, like, just getting to the right individuals that, and again, and not only just for gaining something, because even just to learn, get information, doesn't always have to be, oh, can you help me do this, or can you help get me there? Like, there's always, at the very minimum, there's always be something to learn from whomever you come in contact with. So those are just some of my thoughts when it comes to, again, the back door to success.
I could put this actually really simply. The back door is a couple things. Number one, I think, and this is no fault of any individual, but I think our society kind of forces us to say, you got to get paid, you got to get this money, you got to do this, you got to do that, instead of really flipping your mindset in terms of being more servants, and in terms of what you can learn. And a great example I can give of this is, like, for instance, I'm one of the partners at Verse Comics. And whenever you do anything worthwhile, whether it's starting a company or producing a TV show or a movie, whatever the case may be, you need a lot of people to make that happen. And if you just have, one or two people running around saying, this is mine, this is mine, I need all the credit, I need all the money, well, then you're never going to serve the project and get to the ultimate goal, or whatever your ultimate goal is, with whatever you're doing. So when I partner with B. Van Randall or Jarrell Threet, and we're doing these projects, we're bringing our individual skill sets to it, and we're just doing sweat equity. We're working on things, but we understand the value of one another. So, for instance, let's say you have a project and you partner, you mentioned, Instagram stars or influencers, people like that. If you can bring value to that person, why wouldn't they partner with you? If you're going to increase their platform and allow them to have more opportunities or more money on the back end, why wouldn't they agree to work with you? And if you want to launch a clothing line and you're a great person in terms of sewing and making patchwork, all that kind of stuff, but you can't draw and you can't do designs, well, it would be in your benefit to say, hey, I know X person, they're a great illustrator, they're a great concept artist. Let's partner together and we'll both profit off of the work that we put in this. And I think when we flip our mindset from being just these people that have to acquire so much, and we think about how can we serve one another, if you can bring value to somebody else and they can bring value to you, you can both kind of win in the end. And so I think that's the biggest message, because people people a lot of times are crazy. They just want to use people and get to all the assets themselves, but we really have to flip our mentality.
That's very true. That is very true. We have to flip our mentality. You made me think like, yeah, a lot of times we're like, gimme, 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 gimme. Like no, but what can I give? A good friend told me, and we talk about this all the time. I guess more so remind each other is that you get a lot when you come from a place of giving, and it's not the fact that you give so that you can get, but it just so happens that when you give, one that does just happen that you get offered a lot, but it's because people see how much you care, so then people start caring, and then it's like people start
Yes,
offering you a lot, but you don't come from a place of giving just for the sake of trying to get something in return.
exactly. 100%. And it goes back to what you said about learning. I take everything as a learning opportunity. I'll give you a nugget. So somebody contacted me a few weeks ago and said, "Hey, I got this film coming up. I heard about your work from blah blah blah. Would love to have you maybe work on this film." I said, "Okay, cool." They said, "Okay, we have a clip. Can you put some music to it?" And I said, "Sure." So I write the music. I send it to them. I have not heard back from them. Right. So
Oh wow.
right, and so I could on one end go, "Oh my God, this person's ridiculous," like, and get mad and go off on them. But it's like, okay, well, I took it as an exercise. I worked on some music. I can hold it in my back pocket, whether they come back or not. I use it as a learning opportunity. And I think sometimes we have to just look at some of the things that we do as learning something. And for me, as a composer, what's really crazy, a lot of people don't realize this, even, at the really highest levels of Hollywood, a lot of composers, they have requests to have so many revisions on what they write. So you might have an hour and a half film and the composer might have written 4 hours of music for it. But you'll never hear that other, 2.5 hours worth of music when you go to the movies. So that's stuff that they hold on to. And a lot of times composers will say, this was something different I did. We never used it, but now it's an idea I have to use for something else in the future. And so again, it just goes back to like reframing our mentality, because there are a lot of people that are out there for themselves. And if we can figure out like how can we remanifest our energy and make it something positive. So I'm sitting on tons of music right now that I've never released, but it might be something that I can use in the future. And so that's just how I go and look at those situations.
All right, we're back. Now we're going to have a conversation about capturing the essence. Again, you're a film composer, so this is, to me, a very cool topic. you know, I'm now thinking about films like Jurassic Park, E.T. I don't know, there's a lot of great movies out there. Obviously, great film scores. Star Wars. I can name a bunch, and I think that it takes a unique individual to be a film composer. Having to compose music for a particular scene, to me, seems like it takes a lot of work. And I would think that one would not only have to have a good ear, but a sense to paint the picture before seeing it and before it's actually played out on screen. And I want you to give the listeners some insight, based off of the work that you have already done, and it would just again, like really just paint the picture for again, through your experience. I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to you.
No, what's funny? The three movies you mentioned are by my favorite composer and who I would say is the greatest composer of all time. You mentioned Star Wars, E.T., and Jurassic Park. That is none other than John Williams. John Williams has scored like the music to everything, right? But it's interesting. So you talk about painting a picture. So the way that scores worked during John's time, or the way that he composes, is very different a lot of times from how film directors ask for films to be composed these days. So one of the things that John Williams did was he really uses what's called leitmotif, which is you have a melody that's associated with a person or a place or an idea, and then you use that melody in different situations and in different contexts. So what's really awesome about that is that melody can be put in a whole lot of different situations. And so that's what allows you to kind of bridge the world of all these different sounds across an entire film. So like if you talk about Star Wars, there's a Force theme and Yoda has a theme and Princess Leia has a theme. They all have their music, right? But when you flip it, you can make a melody sound really happy, or you can make it sound really sad or mysterious or dangerous. And so that's how you kind of create expectations and create this tension with characters. But at the end of the day, man, music is a language just like English or any other language. And so what you're trying to do is tell a story. That's why I always call myself, a sonic storyteller. So if you're, when you went to grade school and you learned, there's a plot, there's the characters, there's the content and the theme and the setting, like you learned all these major aspects of storytelling, and you're doing the same thing with music, right? So if the story climaxes, the music is going to climax in certain spots. Like if you have certain characters associated with certain things, those characters will have certain melodies or certain sounds associated with them. And so it's really no different. But the fun in music is the fun and the challenge. I'll say this. So you look at the English language. We got 26 letters, right? A through Z. Now you can arrange those 26 letters into words, and then you can arrange those words into sentences, and those sentences into paragraphs, and those paragraphs into pages, right? Well, if you're looking at Western music, we use what's called equal temperament, and there are only 12 notes. So we got 12 notes that you could put together to make different chords, which you could put together to make different progressions, which you could put together to make different movements and whole songs and whole scores and whole cues. So the parallels are really simple, and they're really connected. And so I think that people a lot of times think, oh my God, how can you score music and write so much music or think about all these things? But at the end of the day, you just got to break it down into the little baby steps, into the little baby chunks. And when you do that, you realize that a really big sounding score is nothing but little tiny melodies from several instruments kind of played at the same time. And then it just sounds huge. So I don't think anybody here would have trouble spelling 3-letter words. But then when you think about putting all those 3-letter words or 4-letter words or 5-letter words, even not big words, into these large phrases, well, then that's when you can create something complex and meaningful and connect to people. So it doesn't have to be complicated. I think a lot of times we overcomplicate things because it's hard for us to kind of sit down and listen sometimes to the nuances of what's going on. But when you start breaking it down like that, man, it's no different than doing something in business. A lot of times people are like, I want to start a business. And then they just get frozen. It's like, okay, well, the first step, can you come up with a name? Can you go file your LLC papers with with your state? Like, do the simple stuff first, and everything's a baby step. And when you start putting those baby steps together, man, you start doing some great things on the back end.
Gotcha. Just want to take a step back to something you were mentioning, the melody, and I'm thinking about My Hero, and I'm thinking about the theme that they have for the main character Deku, and I think as you're talking about like the different moods, and sad, happy, or in one of his biggest battles, I'm literally, as you were giving examples or explaining it, I'm thinking about the song,
right,
or the melody in all the different scenes. So that's crazy. That's really, like, it's like you hear it, but then when you think of like one of your favorite melodies and then like pairing it with your explanation, it's mind blowing. It's like, wow, I see what you mean though. Right. I see exactly what you mean, because I even think about it. I can now see it with the Star Wars thing.
Oh yeah,
same thing. So that's cool. I'm so glad you explained that. Like, connected the dots pretty much. Everything makes sense now. I see what's going on here. So, but yeah, I mean, again, that's just one of the beauties of composition, just being able to do those cool little things. And I mean, things that people don't even think about, right? But we think about on a subconscious level. It's just taking that explanation, like you just explained it, to make it click, and that aha moment. Oh, I see what's going on here, kind of thing. So yeah, I really appreciate you taking and breaking that down. I'm even seeing it like colors.
Oh yeah.
how, or like a orb, right? It in colors, how they transition from color to color, across a color spectrum based on like whatever the mood may be, right? Red being hot or whatever, and yellow being bright, happy, and blue being cold, those kinds of things. So
Exactly.
all right, we're back. Now I'm going to ask you some questions, all so that the listeners can learn more about you, the things you do, and all the fun and exciting things that go along with that. So I'm going to go ahead and fire off with this first question. So Black people and other minorities rarely see themselves represented in education or music composition. Did you have a person or persons that you felt inspired by to enter these fields, or did you want to fill a void you saw in representation while also following your passion?
I think it's a little bit of both, but one of my biggest things is not getting caught up on, what somebody looks like or how someone identifies. It's like just by being yourself, you can be an example to other people to show them that they can do the things that they want to do. So, yeah, I don't see a lot of folks that look like me in terms of composers in Hollywood. But the thing that's crazy, and I think a lot of times we lose sight of, is the fact that people usually work with and hire the people that they're around, right? And when we choose to put ourselves in different circles and be around different people, you make more opportunities for yourself. So if you're seeing that a certain group of people or just certain individuals are kind of holding power over things, well, it's like put yourself in a circle where you can interact with those people and kind of make more opportunities for yourself. And then for me, it is important that people can see that all different types of people can be composers. One of the things that's so interesting today is that more women are getting opportunities to be composers, which we really haven't seen. It's really kind of been only a thing in the last 5 years, honestly, which is kind of crazy. Yeah, I mean, when I think about Hollywood, kind of the most notable composer I can think of that's a woman is Rachel Portman, and then Miss Walker, who did the score for like the original Batman series. So it's not a lot of opportunities, but I think as you just be if you're just yourself, you do great work, you interact with a lot of different people, give yourself an opportunity to be seen for your talent versus how you look. You'll start to make those opportunities for yourself, and then people will be able to see you in that light and have something to aspire to. And so that's kind of the way that I go about it. We talked about John Williams earlier. I've been really inspired by him, and obviously we don't look anything alike. But the thing is, it's like I can take the things that he's done, and I can look at what Terrence Blanchard has done with all of Spike Lee's films and see what's made him successful. And I could look at Michael Abel, who's been doing all the stuff for Jordan Peele recently, and kind of having more opportunities with some other things, and just kind of go about it that way. Because to be honest, when it comes to film composers, and we talked about that backdoor, it's been some real weird, wanky backdoor stuff with composers, like people that have come into composing, being in alternative rock groups, or being in a punk band, or being in like really weird, crazy stuff, but then they get an opportunity to score films just because they interact with a lot of different people and they put themselves in situations where people know who they are. And so, I can think of a ton of examples. I don't know if you saw Back to the Future. Back to the Future is one of my favorite trilogies, right? And that was Alan Silvestri. And he came into it because somebody was like, hey, he just moved there, and he was in a band before, and people were like, "Hey, we like his music." It's like, "Have you ever scored a film before?" No, but he got the gig because he knew somebody, right? And he had put himself in different circles. So, whether you're talking about Daft Punk, who came from the electronic scene, doing Tron back in the day, like all types of stuff, man. Like you just gotta kind of put yourself out there, and I think that's hard. It takes some courage to kind of put yourself out there and put yourself in situations where you're not normally doing stuff. Like right now, I'm really knee deep in a musical that I worked with someone. Her name's Ann Eskridge. She wrote a musical, and I did all the music for that. And So now we're working with Theater Now New York, which is kind of like a musical theater incubator program. So, that's a different feel for me, but it's fun. It's great. And I think as long as we keep pushing ourselves, outside of our comfort zone, we get to be in situations that we wouldn't normally find ourselves and do some really cool things.
I agree. I agree with that. So my next question to you: people often think that a degree, a job, or where they are located limit where their career can go. How were you able to create opportunities where you are and balance a high stress job with your other ambitions?
Man, it's so funny. I've done stuff for people in China, in the UK, in Iran, and that's just been me talking to people, messaging people, willing to kind of offer my help just to get to know people, get associated with them. And one of the things I do is look for people's work who I really like. And so I can think about when I first started out, I was just kind of scouring. I know this sounds crazy. I was scouring Kickstarter, and people would launch a project like, hey, I have a film. And I reach out, hey, do you have someone doing the music for it? Oh, no, we don't. Cool, let's talk. Like, I'm willing to assist you with your campaign. Like, let's see if we can make some magic happen. And so, but I was also very strategic, like reaching out to people who I know you could tell that they value their work. They were trying to do a really great product, because one of the things you also want to do is you want to associate yourself with, people who are doing great work. And so for me, even though, you got the rigors of a day job and you're balancing some of these other things, at least it makes it a lot more worthwhile when you can say you're working with people who care about their work and they're gonna work just as hard for it as you are. Otherwise, you're wasting your time, and that's what will really mentally drain you, and you'll give up on your dream.
True. That is very true. You said human connection is something you said drives much of your work. How do your current pursuits fill that goal, and why is connection important to you?
Connection is important because, I don't know. You talked about how you've liked a lot of films and stuff in your time. One of the things I can think about is, having majored in English and studied music, you realize that storytelling and really meaningful art can change people's lives. And for me, that's the biggest push, because I know that if I'm putting the work in and I'm doing something for something greater than myself, then it's going to be worth it in the end. And so that's what drives the human connection, but not even so much the direct human connection, but the mindsets and ideas and ideals that will move humanity forward. So, I can be honest with you now. Like, there are projects that I did early on that I didn't like, and not just, not necessarily didn't like the film, but didn't like the content of it, didn't like what it was kind of promoting, or the messages it was putting out there. And I just don't do that stuff now, because I feel like it's pulling me down mentally and emotionally, and I want to communicate something better. So I'm much more picky and choosy about the things that I work on now, and I'm okay. This is not going to be for everybody, but I'm okay if, I'm foregoing, you know, possible money for something, or the chance to do something else. But if it doesn't kind of sit right with me, then I kind of don't do it now. And that's not necessarily the approach to take if you have a certain trajectory. Like, I'm not going to say, if you have an opportunity right now to do something and it's going to bring you, a lot of resources, okay, well, maybe it's in your best interest to do it now, and then you can take the resources from that project and leverage it for some other things that you want to do. That's totally legit. That's totally fine. It's just now when you talk about trying to leverage the work you're doing on a day-to-day basis, or, day job stuff, and your passions, that you have to kind of think about where you are mentally and psychologically with stuff, because you will burn out very quickly. And I've had moments where I burned out, and, where I was like, oh, I don't want to do anything day job related, which I think most people are kind of like that anyway, right? But then also kind of feeling like I don't even want to do the stuff that I'm passionate about. And so there's a big balance there.
Thank you for that, and kudos, and I respect that too. Really do. Knowing that it's not all about the money. So a lot of people wouldn't say that.
Exactly.
My last question to you, it's been said that excluding a part of history warps that history. You have said that you are a believer in having a base knowledge. Why is growing and cultivating a wide range of knowledge important to personal and career growth?
Oh, that's a beautiful question, man. Uh, wow. Um, so uh, I'll take it to this really quickly. So I've done a lot of different things educationally. Like I got my bachelor's in English, and I ended up doing a master's in ed specialist and PhD in educational leadership and policy. And one of my doctoral classmates was from France, or is from France. He's not was. He's still around. Is from France. He born and raised in France, and he talked about with me one day. He said in France, there's kind of this expectation that everybody has a baseline knowledge about everything so that you can meaningfully have conversations about anything, right? And I think when we expand our horizons, we also unlock a lot of our creativity. So I mentioned before that Western music is nothing but 12 notes, right? But out of those 12 notes, you can get rap, you can get classical, you can get bluegrass, you can get jazz. Like that's crazy. And all it is taking those 12 notes, combining them in different combinations, and the thing that separates or the thing that actually makes music is silence. And I know that sounds weird, but it's the spaces between the notes that makes music, because that gives you your rhythm. That gives you the timing of what you're doing. And so all it is 12 notes in different combinations in different timing. That's all it is. That's all music is. And I know that sounds crazy to boil it down like that, but that's it. And so when we have a baseline understanding of things, we can deconstruct it, and then we can approach things in a much more, I would even say, civilized way, because we're approaching things from facts and a general sense of what reality is versus I'm coming from my own standpoint and you're different, or whatever the case may be, and we get to be a lot more open, and that just your creativity just blows from there. It's crazy.
Well, thank you all for coming to Alton James's TED Talk. That, that was phenomenal. uh, well, hey, thank you again for taking time out of your schedule to come on the SANE Show. I really appreciate it. I really enjoyed the conversation. I mean that when I say that. And you are always welcome to come back on the SANE Show. So, again, thank you for coming on the show. And thank you for taking time out of your schedule to come on the SANE Show as well.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Always, always. And thank you, listeners, for continuing to listen to SANE Show, continuing to like, share, subscribe, and spread the word. Thank you, guys. I love you guys. And remember, you're listening to SANE Show, the show about nothing and everything. And until next time, we're out.